Hey guys, I thought in this episode we'll do a 2025 update on my portfolio. I've now built a $25 million portfolio. It now has zero debt and it generates for me and my family a net of all costs, passive income of $300,000. So I'm going to be sharing with you the recent deal that I just bought, which is worth more than $10 million. But the purpose of this episode is not to gloat. You know, vanity is the metric of failure. We come into this world with nothing. We leave this world with nothing. The journey is everything. And I'm no better than you, and you're no better than me. Our true worth isn't our net worth. And I don't believe that money has bought me happiness, but I know that I'm financially happy. And that has eased a lot of stress and give me absolute freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want. It's allowed me to pursue my passions, and I'm going to go through that in this episode as well. So if you want to hear from someone who's made it, although it's never about making it, it's about making a difference and impact in people's lives, then this episode will provide more transparency than anyone else in Australia in the real estate game. And of course, I run a business, so I'm going to share with you my passive income before the business and after the business, because a lot of buyers agents and others out there that gloat about a big portfolio, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million, but their debt level might be 80% of that, or the majority of what they earned may have been because of their buyer's agent business or course business. I'm going to be very transparent about that because, yes, I do have a mentorship program. I do help people build passive income through data, through the Property Investment Accelerator program without needing a buyer's agent, spending 15K every time on a buyer's agent. And yes, I do have more than 1,200 clients. And yes, we have bought more than 3,500 properties worth $1.5 billion that have grown in total equity by around $1 billion so far in the last 7 or 8 years in which I've been doing this. And yes, it has saved people over $50 million in buyer's agent fees, but I want to be transparent of the impact that's had on my portfolio so that for those of you who don't have a business, you can understand what is feasible, realistical, practical for you starting right now. If this episode brings you value or any of my previous episodes brought you value, hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and let's go.
Welcome to the Oz Property Investment Mastery Podcast. My name's PK and I help busy people build passive income by buying top 5% growth and cash flow property and build a portfolio using data without wasting months doing research, spending weekends at inspection or catching flights, or dropping $10,000 to $20,000 on buyer's agents every single time. So if you're confused, lack confidence, and just overwhelmed with all the information and marketing misinformation available online and don't know where to start, then this show is for you.
Let's start with the honesty, the transparency right from the start. I built 120K passive income before my business really took off. And that was from a combined borrowing capacity of both my wife and myself. I was an investment banker, then a management consultant before working at JP Morgan, then places like Deloitte and Virgin Australia. She's a chartered accountant, my wife is. She was also on a good income at places like KPMG, IKEA, Flight Centre. We worked both in Europe, in UK, in Australia, going all over the world with our work. And nothing works until you do the work. On the side in 2011 is when I started my property portfolio. I rent vested. That means that for basically over 10 years, I rented while building my portfolio. And I'm going to share with you now the numbers on each of my properties one by one, everything transparently. But I want to say the most fulfilling and genuinely rewarding part of this entire journey, my portfolio development, has been to be able to retire my mum. You know, I haven't come from wealth. They were first generation immigrants. They moved from India to New Zealand. She was a machinist, like she sewed curtains all her life. And when I got to a position where I could say to my mum, look, you don't need to break your back. You're older than 50 years old now, working 8 to 10 hours a day. Let me give you part of my passive income to help you so that you can also do what is your passion in life, because that's something that she never got an opportunity to do. She was always working hard, taking care of me. and taking care of the family. So this is something I've been able to give back. And for me, it makes everything worth it. It makes all the hard work worth it. You know, as they say, it's better to give than it is to receive. Of course, we all have that materialistic sense within us. I do like to make money, who doesn't? But honestly, when you give to others, when you help others, it gives a sense of satisfaction that completely evades you when you just try to work for yourself. So let's go through my portfolio. This is from a blog, workwithjoshua.com. I'll leave the link below so you can check out all these numbers in my journey yourself as well. Leave it in the comments and also the description of this episode. But I started in 2011 and I bought in East Gosford. At that time, I was living in Sydney, my first grad role as an equities research analyst in an investment bank in JP Morgan. The purchase price was 320,000. The valuation was 340. So I got it, I think, 20K under market value, and the rent was 400. Remember that back in 2011, the interest rates were basically similar to what they are now. So I started in a very similar economic environment than those of you who are starting now. The rent per week, 400, basically the property was almost paying itself off. It was basically neutral, and the current value is $1 million, and the current rent is $700. The second property, Frankston, the next year was bought for 315. The valuation was 340 according to similar comparables. The rent was 310. So the rent wasn't amazing. It wasn't like a 6-7% yield, but it was enough for me. The current value is $1.15 million, and the current rent is 690. So you can see how rents rise, how values rise. In my entire portfolio, I've got commercial and residential, and I've also got regional and capital cities. Kingston, 2013, in Tasmania, not to be confused with Logan, 311,000 was the purchase price. And immediately you might be thinking, hey, PK, a lot of your initial properties were super cheap, and that's because there were plentiful properties available for 300K. Right now, that number is more 400K for those of you starting out. The valuation was 335, so you can see consistently I've tried to buy properties just to below under their market value because I've bought them off market. I built my own data system, leveraging my background as an investment banker. I found 30 to 35 data metrics over the last 20 to 30 years and used a statistical technique called multivariate regression analysis to find what actually works and what actually doesn't work, what actually drives the property. Because it's definitely not proximity to the CBD, train stations, or even schools, the things that you might think about down at the suburb level, what drives property. It's not any of that. It's all these other things, and that's what I built for myself, and that's how I started this portfolio. Rent was 350. The current value is about 800K, so it's more than doubled, but hasn't performed as well as the Frankston or East Gosford one, and the current rent is 645. Mount Sheridan in Cairns was a really bad performer. I think I listened to a few buyers agents, to be honest with you, and content online to say there was a big casino coming in Cairns, which never happened. So this was a big mistake that I made. 2015 purchase price was 400, valuation was 400, rent was 400, current value 650, current rent 600. So you can see after all this time, 10 years plus, it hasn't even doubled in value. So that was a big mistake I made. And the lesson learned was always focus on data. Don't just go by what online gurus are saying. Don't just go by the consensus of social media. The next one in Islington 2015 was 507. The valuation was 550. I bought this in Christmas Eve and they really needed to sell before the holiday period, so I got a great discount. Rent per week was 480, and now it's worth $1 million and the rent is 750. And you can notice that it took me 4 years to get to 5 properties. These days people want 5 properties in 3 months or 5 months, which a lot do, and kudos to them. But I never did that. And I think property is get rich slow. It takes time, doesn't have to take 30 years, but very hard to get to 250 to 300K passive income as well within 5 years or even 10 years. It's get rich slow. Patience and enthusiasm need to be combined. The next one in Brisbane, Ferny Hills 2016, purchase price was 480, valuation 500, rent per week 440. Current valuation is 1.05 million and the current rent is 670. So this one's performed really well. And throughout these, I've never used the strategy of buying in a different trust every time. We were fortunate to have healthy borrowing capacities, being in hardworking, high income type roles in our jobs. But I have bought in trusts, I have bought in our personal names, and I have bought in company structure as my journey evolved through the years. Property number 7 was in Burnie, bought in 2016. So you can see I was buying one every year, so to speak. Purchase price 230, very, very cheap. It was amazing. Valuation 230, so on market, fair market value. Rent per week was 260. Current valuation 500 and current rent 430. So less than 10 years, it's more than double. And that's been a terrific performer. I love these small regional locations where the population and economic drivers are expanding. It's not true that capital cities beat regional. I have properties in both. It's sometimes a good idea to buy in a capital city, sometimes a regional. It all comes down to your strategy. My strategy was I want to buy under market value mostly. I want to add value through renovations. I'm going to go through a development deal that I did as well, because I did make a lot of my chunk profits to afford properties and pay them off using development deals as well as private equity. I invested in steel companies and fitness studios, helped improve them, then got my money out for a return on investment. All of this is a side hustle to pay my properties off and accelerate my exit strategy, which I'll get to in a second as well. The next one was in Pichu, 2017. Purchase price 350, valuation 370, rent was 380, current value is 850, and the current rent is 570. The next property was in a place called Vrindavan in India, which was like a holiday home, which we use when we go there, but when we don't, we rent it out. Now, it's always a bad idea to combine lifestyle and investment, but at this stage, we were comfortable in our financial position to say, I'm happy to do that. Bought in 2021, so you can see I took a bit of break, and that's because I didn't have unlimited money, like most of you who are probably watching. So it takes time to save up, and actually I did a few development deals, which I'm going to go through in a second as well. This one was Australian dollars, 420,000. Valuation was 600. I got it hugely under market value because this is in the middle of COVID and people were fire selling in parts of India. The rent per week's 500, current value 600,000, and current rent 600. So it hasn't gone up hugely, although 50% is not bad for 4 years or 3 or 4 years. Now, in that hiatus I took in buying buy and hold properties, I actually started developing in a big way. Here's a real development deal that I did alongside my business partners. This is in Brisbane in a place called Coorparoo, and you can see this corner block right here. If I put on the terrain view, you can see that there's a old house. It was an old Queenslander classic style house, corner block, and behind here was a granny flat. What we did was that we took out the granny flat and we replaced it with two townhouses. We sold the granny flat for about $60,000, I think, and we also renovated the front house. So this project took about 2 years. It made around $300,000 net, and it required a peak debt of about $1.6 million and around, roughly speaking, 300 to 400K cash. So the return on investment was almost 100% in just over 2 years. And doing deals like this really accelerated my ability to make chunk profits and then pay my portfolio off alongside my other small scale private equity endeavors. Now, you don't have to do all this to pay off your properties. You can hold them for a period of time, and as they ripen, you can sell part of your portfolio to pay off the other part of the portfolio that you don't sell, and therefore you've got a property portfolio that is debt free, and that's really when the passive income rises. That's a really great strategy, as are others that I teach, but this is the one that I went for because I had a bit higher risk appetite and wanted to be more active. Then I forayed into commercial, so I bought in Gaba in Townsville, right at the start of the Townsville boom, which is when a lot of my clients, of course, bought in Townsville as well. Purchase price was 430, and the valuation was 430, and the rent per week was 960. Commercial property, 3 tenants, a warehouse, and the current value is 900,000, with the current rent being $1,100 every single week. Do I recommend commercial property? I really don't, unless you're a high net worth, sophisticated individual, which I was at this time, because alongside commercial property comes a lot of vacancy. People don't tell you this. Even if it's a fantastic commercial property, every 3 or 5 years, it will incur a huge vacancy period. And that's why I share that I have a net passive income of $250 to $300,000. I'm just keeping a buffer there because I know that I'll incur vacancy periods that are long term in my commercial properties. Just like this next one in Brisbane City, where I bought it for 2021. The purchase price was 995,000. The valuation on purchase was about 1.1 million. We got it off market. The rent was 1,060 per week. The current value is now 1.4 million, and the current rent is 1,200 a week. This is an optometrist right smack bang in the middle of the city on the ground floor in an established building of 20 plus floors, a lot of thoroughfare, a lot of footfall, but only one elevator, so the body corp is very low. Yes, commercial property has allowed me to increase my passive income, but honestly, these two properties are giving me more headache than all my residential properties combined. The next property that I bought was I finally stopped rent vesting, and I had the equity finally to buy my own principal place of residence, which I bought in 2022 in a suburb called Sorrento in the Gold Coast. Purchase price was 3.05 million, current valuation 3.5 million, and rent per week is nothing because it's my principal place of residence, or one of them. We recently had this idea that we wanted to have a base in both Australia, we already had one in India, also in the US, and also in the UK, because we want to be citizens of the world. We want my son to be a citizen of the world. So we bought a property where we're currently living, but we'll be back and forth in Australia and other parts of the world. We want to live a nomadic lifestyle. We bought this in 2024 for $11.6 million Australian. The current valuation is the same, and the rent is obviously nothing because we live here. So I want to be very transparent. There's no debt on any of this portfolio. Could we have bought this $12 million property in California if I didn't have my mentorship business? No, I wouldn't have been. In fact, I need more than my mentorship business to be able to afford this. It was also because of development deals, which I've done almost 5 of now, including commercial development where we built service stations, childcare. So a lot of that has contributed to my wealth. But up until 2020, which is when I stopped and exited my 9 to 5, everything was bought basically on my PAYG income, well, my wife and myself. And so therefore I was able to get 120K passive in 10 years, just like you can. I don't want to overpromise it. You know, some people say, well, guarantee that you can get 150K passive net income in 10 years. I'm not that sort of person. There's no need to create arbitrary goals like 10 properties in 10 years. You figure out what you need and reverse engineer it. Some people might take longer than me. Some of you who are smarter than me, more active than me, have a higher risk appetite than me, might be able to do it faster. Everyone's different. There's no point comparing yourselves to anyone else, including me. Compare yourself to yourself, who you used to be. Make sure you continue to improve. So right now I'm sitting at 250 to 300K net passive income, 25 million Australian dollars in property. That's not my entire net worth, but it is the majority of my net worth. And I want to tell you one thing. The grass is not greener. I don't feel that I'm any happier than what I was in 2011, but what I am is freer. And it's up to me, it's up to you what we do with our time. I don't have to make these episodes, but I want to use my time to do things that make a difference. And what makes a difference is providing free education to you guys so you can emulate similar journeys to mine. What makes a difference is helping my clients, everyday people, get ahead and exit the rat race. What makes a difference is we're starting a physical school for kids, starting from preschool to teach them everything that they need to know, but also financial literacy, relationships, and the practical things in life that the school system doesn't teach. What makes a difference is in our house, we have a yoga studio, a meditation studio where we host people every week, teaching them mental health and mindfulness meditation techniques and taking them on a journey, all completely as a not-for-profit, both the school and this. I'm not holier than thou. I'm not better than you. I'm not more advanced than anyone else. I just found something in life that I could be better than 99.9% at. That was property investing. I used it to buy freedom. That's effectively what I did. I bought freedom, and now it's up to me to use that freedom to truly fulfill the purpose of my life and gain fulfillment. For those of you you umming and ahhing about property investment, there's no gain in pessimism. It's as good a time to start now as it was when I started. You shouldn't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be in life, and take advantage now before today takes advantage of you. These were some of the guiding principles in which I lived my life. My motto was look around, see what the majority do, and do something different. Do what they're not prepared to do, and that's what will get you ahead in life. Look, I'm not a motivational coach, but hopefully my journey serves to inspire you and educate you. I've had more than $5 million of debt. Good debt has allowed me to now have zero debt. If I was scared of good debt and thought all good debt was bad debt, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Look, I'm not trying to convince you to invest in property, but it's the only way I know whereby everyday Australian people can get ahead and achieve financial freedom. I'm sure there are other vehicles and other people online that can teach you how to use them to get ahead, but conviction and wisdom comes from actually having done something. So I only have conviction and wisdom in property investing. It's changed my life, changed my family's life, and changed the lives of more than 1,200 of my clients. And hopefully the broader community, 60,000 of you who are in my Facebook group, Australian Property Mastery with PK, 30,000 of you who follow my podcast, Oz Property Mastery with PK, on Spotify and other platforms, and 50,000 of you who subscribe to me on YouTube. I have a community of more than 100,000, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, communities in property in Australia. I'm incredibly grateful for each and every one of you for being part of the community. I want to give back as much as I can, and I want to help as many people as I can. They say he who serves the best prospers the most. I want to serve all of you as best I can, and I want to serve in other respects outside of property, in setting up our school, in our meditation studio, and so many other things we're doing. This was a raw, honest, and authentic sharing of my personal life. I don't think many people share things this openly, but I hope it helps you build trust in property investing, build trust in me, because mutual trust, mutual respect is the start of what can be a wonderful journey. Thanks, guys.